All right, before we start, where's my centurion? Get it. Go up there. Take your bulletin, go up there. So, this half, all of you, when we get to it, you are the accusers. That's your part. You got to stay awake. You can sit down. Everybody can sit down. Frank, going up there, if you would. Frank, come on. You can't? Okay. All right, I got you. All right. This section and those of you out there, all right, you're the scribes. Go ahead and sit down. Relax. This group and the booth, you guys are the bystanders. All right? You got 2 lines and you got a line late, so you got to stay awake. Over here, you're the soldiers. Okay? So that's your part. Everybody does the part where it says crowd and it's in bold. That's everybody. Okay? Any questions? Stay seated until we get to Golgotha, and then you'll see your part where we all stand up. All right?
They went to a place called Gethsemane, and Jesus said to his disciples,
"Sit here while I pray."
and he took with him Peter and James and John, and he began to be greatly distressed and troubled. And he said to them,
"My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch."
and going a little farther, he fell on the ground and prayed, if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said,
"Abba, Father, all things are possible to thee. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I will, but what thou wilt."
And he came and he found them sleeping. And he said to Peter,
"Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, the flesh is weak."
And again he went away and he prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and he found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came the 3rd time, and he said to them,
"Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour is come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
And immediately while he was still speaking, Judas came, one of the 12, and with him a crowd with swords and clubs from the chief priests and the scribes and the elders. Now the betrayer had given them a sign, saying,
"The one I shall kiss is the man. Seize him and lead him away under guard."
And when he came, he went up to him at once, and he said,
"Hail, Master."
and he kissed him. And they laid hands on him, and they seized him. But one of those who stood by drew his sword and struck the slave of the high priest and cut off his ear. And Jesus said to them,
"Have you come out as against a robber, with swords and clubs to capture me? Day after day I was with you in the temple teaching, and you did not seize me. But let the scripture be fulfilled."
And they all forsook him and fled. And a young man followed him with nothing on but a linen cloth about his body, and they seized him, and they left the cloth, and he ran away naked. And they led Jesus to the high priest. And all of the chief priests and the elders and the scribes were assembled. And Peter had followed him at a distance, right into the courtyard of the high priest. And he was sitting with the guards and warming himself at the fire. Now the chief priests and the whole council sought testimony against Jesus to put him to death, but they found none. Many bore false witness against him, and their witness did not agree. And some stood up and bore false witness against him, saying, And yet, not even so did their testimony agree. And the high priest stood up in the midst and asked Jesus,
Have you no answer to make? What is it that these men testify against you?
but he was silent, and he made no answer.
Are you the
Again,
Christ?
the chief priest asked him,
Are you the Christ, the Son of the Blessed?
and Jesus said,
I am. And you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of power and coming with the clouds of heaven.
and the high priest tore his garments, and he said,
Why do we still need witnesses? You have heard the blasphemy. What is your decision?
and they all condemned him as deserving death. And some began to spit on him, and to cover his face, and to strike him, saying to him,
Prophesy.
and the guards received him with blows. And as Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the maids of the high priest came, seeing Peter warming himself, and she looked at him and said,
You also were with the Nazarene, Jesus.
but he denied it, saying,
I neither know nor understand what you mean.
and he went out of the gateway. The maid saw him, and again began to say to the bystanders,
This man is one of them.
but again he denied it. And after a little while, the bystanders said to Peter, but he began to invoke a curse on himself and to swear,
I do not know this man of whom you speak.
and immediately the cock crowed a second time. And Jesus had said to Peter, and Peter remembered, before the cock crows twice, you'll deny me 3 times. And he broke down and wept. As soon as it was morning, the chief priests and the elders and the scribes and the whole council held a consultation. And they bound Jesus, and they led him away and delivered him to Pilate. And Pilate asked him,
Are you the king of the Jews?
and he answered him.
You have said so.
And the chief priests accused him of many things. And Pilate again asked him,
Have you no answer to make? See how many changes they bring against you, charges they bring against you.
but Jesus made no further answer, so that Pilate wondered. Now at the feast, he used to release for them one prisoner for whom they asked. Now among the rebels in prison there was a man called Barabbas, who had committed murder in the insurrection. And the crowd came up and began to ask Pilate to do as he was wont to do for them. And he answered them,
Do you want me to release for you the king of the Jews?
for he perceived that it was out of envy that the chief priests had delivered him up. But the chief priests stirred up the crowd to have him release for them Barabbas instead.
Then what should I do with the man whom you call the king of the Jews?
They cried out again.
Crucify him.
Pilate said to them,
What evil has he done?
but they shouted out all the more.
Crucify him.
So Pilate, wishing to satisfy the crowd, released for them Barabbas. Having scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. And the soldiers led him away inside the palace, that is the Praetorium. And they called together the whole battalion. And they clothed him in a purple cloak. And planting a crown of thorns, they put it on him. And they began to salute him.
Hail, King of the Jews.
And they struck his head with a reed, and they spat upon him. And they knelt down in homage to him. And when they'd mocked him, they stripped him of the purple cloak, put his own clothes on him, and led him out to crucify him. And they compelled a passerby, Simon of Cyrene, who was coming in from the country, the father of Alexandra and Rufus, to carry his cross. And they brought him to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And they offered him wine mingled with myrrh, but he didn't take it. And they crucified him. And they divided his garments among them, casting lots for them to decide what each should take. And it was the third hour when they crucified him, and the inscription of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." And with him, they crucified two robbers, one on his right, one on his left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, so the chief priests mocked him to one another. And they were saying, those who were crucified with him also reviled him. And when the sixth hour had come, there was darkness on the whole land until the ninth hour. And at the ninth hour, Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying,
Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani,
which means,
my God, why have you forsaken me?
some of the bystanders hearing it said. And one ran, filling a sponge full of vinegar, put it on reed, and gave him to drink, saying,
Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to take him down.
and Jesus uttered a loud cry and breathed his last. And the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. And when the centurion who stood facing him saw this, and that he had breathed his last, he said,
Truly, this man was the Son of God.